but I came to faith late in life. I never heard the gospel until I was in university. I was raised by a single teenage Buddhist mother in South Central Los Angeles. And so that was kind of my faith reference point. I believe that Black people are capable. I don't believe that Black people are utterly dependent on the government or people of goodwill. I believe that Black people are absolutely capable. I was raised by a single Black mother who was absolutely capable, who did everything that she could do to see to it that I had advantages that she didn't have.
In a recent interview with Ben Shapiro, Pastor Voddie presented a compelling argument for the existence of God, biblical masculinity, and the distinction between social and biblical justice.
And the argument that they make is essentially you're an idiot to believe in God. So a college student comes home, comes to your house, and starts telling you that God doesn't exist, that the Bible was written by a bunch of idiots in caves thousands of years ago. How do you respond to that? What's your chief argument to people who are purporting to object to the Bible or object more broadly to the existence of God and his providence in the universe on an intellectual basis?
Yeah, what I want to do is I want to show them that that's all based on presuppositions, right? The last thing that I want to do is get down on their level and say, okay, fine, let's just leave that aside. No, I want to say to them, all of that is based on presuppositions. You're taking leaps of faith back there in order to get here and make that argument. Your presuppositions have been tried before, and they've led to catastrophe. Mine is based on presuppositions as well, but my presuppositions has led to Western civilization. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The other thing that I want to say is, I'm not coming at this blind, right? I choose to believe the Bible because it's a reliable collection of historical documents written by eyewitnesses during the lifetime of other eyewitnesses. They report supernatural events that took place in fulfillment of specific prophecies, and they claim that their writings are divine rather than human in origin. So again, this is not just, close your eyes and hope you feel something, type stuff. We do not have a God who calls upon us for blind faith. We have a God who speaks. We have a God who has revealed himself. So those are the two things that I want to do, right? Number one, just, get off your moral high horse because you got presuppositions just like me. And number two, look at what your presuppositions have wrought. And then number three, let me talk to you about mine.
Please like this video, subscribe, and enable the bell icon. Thanks. Voddie's boldness and passion for defending biblical truth remind us of the importance of standing firm in a morally depraved culture. His unwavering commitment to the gospel of Jesus Christ is a testament to the transformative power of faith in a world that desperately needs redemption.
Do we believe that the gospel is indeed the power of God? And that is the power of God unto salvation. Do we believe that? Or do we believe that there is something more that people need? Do we believe that we need to graduate from the gospel? Do we believe that the ills of our society and the great problems that men and women face need something more significant than the gospel? God forbid.
We live in an age where the existence of God is increasingly doubted or outright denied. Many in society seek to place themselves on the throne, acting as their own God. Yet, as Voddie pointed out, humans cannot create or sustain life, a fundamental truth that underscores their finite nature. When humanity attempts to take the place of God, the result is a society marked by chaos, violence, sexual immorality, fear, anxiety, and depression run rampant.
Yo, man, you believe in God?
There ain't no God.
We are the gods now.
It is time for man to become God, where God has failed.
One of the most pressing issues facing the Western world today is the deconstruction of biblical masculinity. As Voddie highlights, men are either emasculated or fall into hypermasculinity, both of which lead to broken homes, strained marriages, and a loss of moral direction.
Any family formation unit is totally equivalent, that you don't need a mother, you don't need a father, two fathers might do it, two mothers might do it, 7 people might do it, a society might do it. But what the studies tend to show is that the best outcome, particularly for young men, is if they have a father in the home, and if they don't have a father in the home, then a surrogate father nearby.
Right.
And why do you think society has moved so far, so fast away from this when it's so obvious? I mean, it is perfectly obvious that the effect of not having male figures around is devastating for young men.
Because we're more moved by and committed to ideologies and narratives than we are to truth. Especially when you start talking about, social justice movement, critical theory. When you have as a foundational idea that people who are appealing to absolute truth are part of, this oppressive hegemonic power, that's one problem. But then when you also have this powerful narrative that men are unsafe, that the patriarchy is inherently oppressive, then that tends to override any evidence to the contrary. So you talk about these studies that point to outcomes for young men, that just doesn't carry as much weight as the passionate feminist who sees the patriarchy as the root of all evil.
The Bible calls men to be priests, protectors, and providers in their homes, a charge that reflects their God-given roles as leaders and nurturers of their families. When these responsibilities are ignored, whether through apathy, societal pressure, or the influence of the feminist movement, the consequences are devastating. Single-parent households, soaring divorce rates, teen violence, and rampant promiscuity are just some of the outcomes of abandoning biblical principles.
Let's talk about manhood.
When you take manhood and try to look at manhood in isolation, you've already got a problem. The God who created us, he created us male and female. And so you cannot understand maleness apart from femaleness, right? You have to understand what it means to be a man, first of all, by what it means to be made in the image of God, and second of all, by what it means to be made as this counterpart to a woman. And this idea that God created us to be priest, and prophet, and provider, and protector. God designed us that way. And when you take us away from that, we're bigger than women, we're stronger than women, we have all of these things that allow us to take advantage of women. They get pregnant, we don't. We can just walk away from it and, leave them with that. There are so many things that if left unchecked, they do allow for this toxic version of masculinity. And so what we have to call men back to is this understanding of manhood that is outside of themselves. And you being a man is not just about who you think you are or even who you want to be. It is about you pointing back to the one who made you. It's about you pointing back to the purpose for which he made you. And it's about you pointing back to the relationship that he intends for you to have with the opposite sex. This idea that we would be in a relationship, that we would be the head of a household, that we would be, like I said, priest, prophet, provider, protector within that context. All of that gives us not only purpose, but it gives us greater understanding of what masculinity is all about. And it also keeps it in check and it protects women. That's the irony of all of this. People are fighting against the patriarchy. People are fighting against marriage. People are fighting against traditional roles. And the result is you leave women unprotected and you leave men unchecked to do whatever they will with those women.
The feminist movement, often viewed as a means of empowering women, has done untold harm to American families. Voddie exposes the lies behind this movement, showing how it has eroded the roles of both men and women in the family unit. True empowerment comes not from rejecting biblical roles, but from embracing them, finding fulfillment in God's design for men and women.
Feminism is the serpent of our day, telling women there's something more out there, this biblical womanhood stuff that's trying to hold you back.
One of the obvious yet unspoken consequences of the feminist movement is the feminization of men and the emasculation of men. Men no longer know how, nor have the permission to be men. And because of that, we have fathers who are uncomfortable stepping into their role of priest, prophet, provider, and protector in their home.
And so I think this movement is a reflection of the fact that women in particular and our culture in general has paid a tremendous price for taking a bite of that fruit. See, you just turn away from feminism, and ultimately what you get in many instances is just feminism light or feminism in another direction. But you have to turn in true repentance, which is turning from your sin and turning to God. And when we turn to God, we turn back to that picture of womanhood that is a reflection of the image of God, and that picture of womanhood that is an illustration of the relationship between Christ and his church, and that redemptive reality.
Similarly, Voddie tackles the rise of the social justice movement, which promotes ideas like wealth redistribution under the guise of fairness.
The term social justice is very contentious. So how do you define social justice, and what do you think is wrong with social justice?
Yeah, I mean, I think social justice classically is defined as the redistribution of wealth, privileges, and opportunities. Social justice is about equity, not equality, right? Not what we all grew up with, equal opportunity, but equity, equal outcomes. So it's redistribution with a view toward achieving equal outcomes for various specified groups.
While social justice may sound appealing, Christians must discern its flaws. Biblical justice is rooted in God's truth, seeking righteousness and fairness according to his standards, not man-made ideologies. Supporting social justice often leads Christians astray, aligning them with unbiblical principles that conflict with the gospel. God has raised up men like Voddie to boldly proclaim the gospel, even in conversations with influential figures like Ben Shapiro. Voddie's fearless testimony reminds us of the urgency of the gospel. May we all proclaim the gospel with boldness, trusting God to work through our witness.